Hello, hello, hello. My name is Donna Thomas, and you are joining me on the Self Reflection Podcast with Donna. Today is our actual first day of hosting the podcast, and I'm so excited that you will be joining us. Today's podcast is going to be geared towards self reflection and learning how to show up and find your voice. When we think about self reflection, we often think about how we can think more clearly and how we can look back on maybe the day's events, right? But we also think about our core values and how they align with what we're doing in our everyday life. We also think about how our core values affect our integrity and how we move forward, and just thinking thoughtfully about what we go through every day and how does it add meaning and value to our lives. When we self-reflect, it leads us to making better choices and leading us to making decisions that help us to rediscover our power to heal and to create change within ourselves. So in this podcast, we're going to be basically looking in the mirror, right? And seeing, how can I be better? What are some things that I've done in my life that can be lessons that I can learn and look back on and say, well, I could have done that differently. Or self-reflection where I can give myself a pat on the back. Sometimes we don't give ourselves enough credit for things that we're actually doing well, right? And so that's what we're going to be doing here in this podcast, is just taking deeper looks at ourselves and into our lives. I'm going to be doing a lot of self-reflecting on my own, which I do constantly. I think I'm in constant self-reflection mode, but even that can be good and bad. I think it has positives in both. I don't think that we should always self-reflect, but I don't think you should dwell on any one thing for too long, because then you become kind of obsessive about it, and you don't want it to turn into a negative feeling or a feeling of anxiety about constantly trying to figure out what you either did wrong or did right the day before, or within a moment of, hastiness when you're just living out your life, So today I'm just so excited that we're going to be, just talking this thing out. I talk to my friends a lot about these same issues, about self-reflecting and how to just become better. How can I just look at myself and grow? Everything is about growth and growing. And when we look at the definition of what self-reflection is, it says that self-reflection is looking into a mirror and describing what you see. It is a way of assessing yourself, your ways of working, and how you study things, right? To put it simply, reflection means to think about things, to think about any particular thing, right, that's happening in your life, and to think about it deeply. You probably look most days in the mirrors like I do, right? And most times I look at myself and I just think, like, who am I? And I think I've changed so much. I mean, I'm 41 now, but I think about the 21-year-old Donna and the 15-year-old Donna and how I've evolved, and the working mom or the mother, the wife, or now divorcee, and being single again, and how does that look in my life now? And I often do a lot of self-reflecting on how I could have done things better or different, or what did I do right and that I should give myself more credit for, because a lot of times we'll do things right and we're like, oh no, that was no big deal. Or somebody will give you a compliment like, oh, okay, but always trying to downplay our greatness or downplay the good things that we do in life. And it's okay to give yourself kudos. It's okay to say, wow, I really did that one thing really good, or I did a good job here, or my friend needed me and I came through. I'm happy that that's a good thing that I did. It's a good part of me that I'm sharing my life with other people. And that's really what we're here to do, is to share our lives with each other, right? And so in that, we just think about how can we self-reflect that we're able to do that in a better way. often we think about looking inward, right, and looking at our inner selves. And when we do that, we're able to reflect on what things are working and what things aren't working, right? And that also comes with an understanding of who you are deeply. And when you take time to really understand yourself, I feel like you grow, you know. Self-reflection is a process. It's all a process, and it takes time. It's not something that can happen really overnight, but it's something that we should be actively engaged in doing, and helping ourselves grow, to understand ourselves better, and to just understand the world around us, right? And how we react to things, right? Are you the type of person that reacts? Are you the type of person that speaks too quickly? And so or you don't speak fast enough, or you don't react, so when we take time to look at our lives and look at who we really are deeply, it helps us to align a lot of our personal goals and values to our life. And I feel like it makes our future better when we self-reflect. It's there to help our future. Looking back always helps us to improve our lives, and it helps us with the journey. There's a famous quote that Ayanna Vincent always says: the journey into self-love and self-acceptance must begin within self-examination. Until you take the journey of self-reflection, it is almost impossible to grow and learn in life. And I agree with Yana there that if we are not doing any self-reflecting, definitely self-acceptance, self-love, and looking really internally inside ourselves, it really is impossible to grow, because then it's as though you're living without looking deeply into what makes life worth it. What are the things that make you happy? What are some things that make you sad, things that you want to avoid, pitfalls, right? And that happens when you are able to self-reflect, when you're able to look back at or look deeply into your life and into how you handle things, how we analyze and observe ourselves, how we grow. All of this is about growing, and to help us grow as an individual, and to help us grow collectively, because we are living this life together. We're not living it alone. I think about that all the time, that our actions or reaction to things affect other people, right? So we're not just in this bubble. We're sharing this life we have with others. And so it leads me to think that if I self-reflect and if I look deeply into myself to make myself better, then indirectly I'm helping others, right? And I'm also making them better. So self-reflecting also helps us understand who we are, right? But keeping in mind that it is a journey, and it takes time, and it takes practice. When we reflect, we need to sometimes get into a quiet place to sit and really think about our thoughts, and think about the world around us and our environment, and how all of that affects who we are on a daily basis, right? Whether it's your job and thinking about that and how it affects you, and thinking about your passions and the things that you're interested in, and thinking about your family members and loved ones, and the types of relationships you have, and if they're positive, and what makes them positive, and if they're not, how can you be more effective to make it positive, or have a better outcome, right? Or to have a better experience, because a lot of this is about the self-reflecting is about having a positive experience in life, right? When we seek to address certain behaviors that we have, when we look deeply into ourselves, we're able to, in the future, to turn some situations around that maybe might not have been so positive. For example, you're at work and you get irritated with a colleague, and you just fly off the handle, because that can happen sometimes. When you self-reflect, you think like, man, maybe I could have handled that a better way, or I could have said it a different way. Or if you're a mom and your kid, gets on your nerves, and you just fly off the handle and you say the wrong thing, self-reflecting allows you to later on in the future, when that incident happens or arises again, you can go back and think about, man, what happened before? I don't want that to happen again. I don't want to speak too quickly. It allows you to take some time to consider what you're going to say, to consider the other person's feelings, right? And to consider what are better ways that I can improve relationships that I have, and make my life enjoyable, and the experiences I have with others enjoyable, right? When we think about self-reflection, we think about, I know for me, I always think about things that I've wanted and desires I've had for myself. And sometimes I think, like, did I accomplish everything I've wanted to accomplish in life? And what more is there? For a long time, I wanted to travel. And in the beginning of my career, teaching, I was able to do it a little bit, but not as much as I want to say. But now that I'm living abroad, and I'm actually living in Abu Dhabi right now, and I've been here for almost 4 years now. And I can honestly say that I'm living the dream. I'm living the life that I wanted to live so long ago, so many years ago, that I didn't feel like I would have been able to do this then, because I had so many other obligations. And when I self-reflect, I think, wow, I wish I could have done it earlier, but I also believe that God doesn't put us in places and in situations that we're not ready for. And I think back then I might not have been ready for the life that I'm living now, right? And so I'm grateful that I have this opportunity to just measure my progress in a positive way. I can look back and think about how far I've come, and that all comes with self-reflection. And I could see my growth. I see how even my growth within the last 3 or 4 years, within the last year, and how coming over here and moving gave me the opportunity to really look deeply within myself, to love myself again, and to honor myself, and to spend time with myself. I'm actually a really fun person. I think about that all the time. I travel alone quite often. And if that's not something that you're into, I would suggest taking 1 trip a year alone. I mean, you find out all kinds of things about yourself that you would have not otherwise thought about, to be honest with you. And if you can't spend time by yourself, I don't know how you're going to do with anybody else. And I realized that I'm a fun gal. Like, I enjoy myself. I enjoy meeting people. I enjoy having like great conversations with strangers, and just having like these authentic experiences. And most times when I travel, I actually do it alone. It's nice to have a friend or a pal, somebody you can kind of like caddy up with and laugh at, each other's jokes with, and share in an experience. But it's really nothing like being alone. And being able to wake up when you feel like it, go when you want to go, stay when you want to stay, have your agenda and your plan done. In those times that you're alone, you get to do more self-reflecting, thinking about your life in a deeper way, thinking about the world around you and how we're connected to it, right? And when I'm traveling and I'm alone and I'm just meeting other people, it really, I don't know, it's just like a blessing to me almost, because I feel so close to myself. And it gives me really a good time to think about my life just in a deeper way, how much I appreciate life, and I appreciate the gift of being able to travel, to the gift of being able to be alone and be happy with myself and being okay with that, because a lot of people aren't okay with being alone. A lot of people feel like sometimes you have to have others around in order to make you feel good, And my mechanic used to say all the time, nobody can make you happy but yourself. Only you can make you happy. Nobody can do that for you. Nobody can be the complete source of your happiness outside of God. That's it, And so when we self-reflect, the benefits of that is that it helps us to think about our actions in a different way, right? To potentially help us to grow, to help us to improve our relationships, with whether it's romantic or platonic, to help us to grow stronger even in our faith walk. I think a lot of times we need to get into a quiet place and be still, and that all comes in self-reflection, thinking about our relationship to our Creator, to God. I believe in Christ. I'm a Christian. And so when I self-reflect, it helps me to also think about how I am as a Christian, and how I love, and if I've given love, and if, I'm being grateful. And it just, it helps me to think about these things deeply, and how I am, in my mind, an ambassador, and how am I living my life, and does it represent my values, right? And so the benefits of self-reflecting helps me to think about those things, right? It helps me it gives me greater clarity of thought. It helps me to introspective thinking, right? To provide an opportunity for me to think deeply about the things that I care about, the people that I care about. And on an emotional level, it helps me to feel like I'm grounded in a sense. And I don't know, I just love self-reflecting because it really helps me to focus my energy on my passions, the things that I find enjoyable in life. It helps me to think about how I want my life to be better, right, in this world, and what steps I need to take, because there are steps in life I feel that we need to take to make our lives better. I don't think that we can just sit idly by and do nothing and then want to have a different outcome, right? That's what it is I call insanity, right? Doing the same thing over and over again, but it's expecting something different to happen. I think that when we self-reflect, we also have to think about, okay, what's the next step? So this happened, what's the next step? Or, I didn't do that, what can I do different, right? There should be some next step that comes, when it comes to self-reflecting. And it could help definitely get your creative juices going. I'm a very creative person. And so self-reflecting helps me think about deep things that are deeply related to how I feel artistically, and when I want to paint, or if I want to write, and how I can express myself deeply, or in a different way, rather. Self-reflecting helps me to understand my true values, right? What are some things that I really believe, or and why do I believe these things? It doesn't just let me take things at face value. It helps me to really think about them in a deeper way. And self-reflection also helps me to improve my decision making, because at times I can be, kind of like not double-minded, but sometimes it's hard for me to make a choice. If, for example, and this is a silly example, I'll go into a store and I'll see a shirt and I'm like, oh God, it's so awesome, I want it so bad, but I only went for a toothbrush, and now I'm in there. I go to Walmart. You go for a toothbrush and you come out with a whole shopping cart of things, because now I feel like, okay, I need this, I need that, instead of just making the decision, no, I'm only going to get this one thing, or I see a pair of shoes and now I got to get in every color because I can't decide on which one looks best, or, those are silly things to think about. But decision making, sometimes we have very big and major decisions to make in life, right? And unconsciously, we don't always think about, well, if I can do some self-reflecting, that might take the pressure off of future decisions that I make when I think about the things that I've done in the past, right? We make hundreds of choices every day. Most are insignificant, right? And can be left to what we say, the unconscious mind. But there are some decisions in life that are extremely important. And a little self-reflection can be extremely valuable, right? Because it'll give us clarity of thought and awareness of what's really important to us in making this decision. Okay, so I should go this way. Okay, I need to buy this house, or I need to, start working on my credit to do X, Y, and Z, because I have this future goal in mind of being debt free. That's my goal, right? So I know I need to take certain steps to make that goal happen. It's not going to happen and I'm going shopping every week, right? So I need to, make a plan and to cut back, and I need to think about the things that I did in my past financially that weren't very sound, and I need to make better choices, right? I need to make a different choice. So those are other positive reasons to self-reflect. Another good reason self-reflecting is, to me, the best thing that I've been doing lately is because it helps me to sleep better. It gives me more peace in my mind and my spirit. And so I'm not up all night thinking about things, tossing and turning over different ideas or different thoughts when I take like time and I schedule out time to do self-reflecting, whether it's right before I go to bed or if it's when I wake up in the morning and I go for my walk. Those are always good times to do it. It lowers my anxiety and my stress level because, a lot of times in life we're stressed out, and it helps us to stay grounded in ourselves when we're able to think about things deeply and to take time to think about things. When I think about self-reflection, I want to put myself in a place of mindfulness and gratefulness, because I want to be grateful. I want to make sure that I'm always thinking about my life in a grateful way. I'm so happy to be alive. I'm so happy to have the activities of my limbs. I'm so happy to have my mind still be in a good place and sound. So those are wonderful ways to do self-reflection, of thinking about your life in a positive way. To just be in a comfortable place with yourself. And so when we think about self-reflection and being in a comfortable place, right, you want to maybe get into you can, like I said, places I like to self-reflect is going on my walks. But you can take a warm bath. You can just lay in bed. Those are ideal places. You can sit in a garden. You can go for a walk in the park. Any place that inspires thought, right? Any place where you can go and ask like deep questions of yourself. You can ask the why questions, right? Is the first thing you think about. Why do you act the way you do? Why do you think the way you think? Why do you feel the way you feel? You can ask some what questions. Well, what happened, in my life earlier that led me to X, Y, and Z, right? So you can answer some of those questions. The who in my life are important that I need to think about deeply and to improve those relationships. Where do I want to go, right, in life? Where do I want to be? How do I see myself now in my present situation versus how would I like to see myself in the future, right? What are some things I could have done differently in life? Those are always major questions we can ask when we're thinking about self-reflection, right? And giving yourself some time to do it, not being in a rush. Self-reflecting doesn't have to take all night, but it's definitely a healthy state of mind or a healthy state of living when we're able to self-reflect and think about our lives in a different way, in a meaningful way that will help us to be better, right? Consider writing your thoughts down, keeping a journal. Those are always good ways of self-reflecting because it helps you to look back now on those thoughts you had in the past. And I journal a lot. I have a lot of journals. Sometimes I think I have too many. I'll just start brand new journals. But it is definitely a good way of writing your feelings down and then looking back on it later on and thinking like, wow, I'm in such a good place now or a different place. And looking back on where you were, can be a positive self-reflection. Another way of self-reflecting, if you aren't able to do it on your own, is to possibly speak to a therapist, right? I have a therapist that I've spoken to in the past, and she was wonderful and helped me through so many things that I wasn't able to express on my own, and I needed someone to kind of like walk me through it, some of the feelings that I would have, and getting somebody qualified that can help you and to kind of guide your thoughts through the process, right, towards self-enlightenment, towards self-improvement, and to facing some of the challenges that we have in life. Sometimes it's difficult to do it on our own or to talk to family and friends about it. And so I just encourage you to think about self-reflecting in a deeper way and how it might benefit you. And so on this podcast, that's what we're going to be doing. We're going to be looking at different ways we can self-reflect and look at different topics that we could self-reflect on, and how self-reflection has helped me in my life to move forward into ways that I've shown growth. I wanted to leave you with a quote from Carl Sandburg. It says, "A man must find time for himself. Time is what we spend our lives with. If we are more or not careful, we find others spending all of our time for us. It is necessary now that for a man to grow or to go away with himself and experience loneliness is to sit on a rock in a forest and to ask himself, who am I? And where have I been? And where am I going? If one is not careful, one allows diversions to take up one's time, to stifle their life. It is better to look back and self-reflect. And I am all about self-reflecting and about thinking about your life. And I hope that this podcast brings you some type of joy. And it's always my deepest desire to just bring joy to people. I am a teacher by trade, and that is my career, and I love it. And I just love bringing joy to children, but I also like to share my experiences with others and hoping that that would help us to get through this life together. We're in this thing together, guys. And so I just want to thank you again for listening to my podcast, and I look forward to seeing you again.